manners are the best type of mindfulness, is you being present in the moment, being aware of what you're saying and how that impacts the world around you. You can be both polite and set boundaries. You can be kind and say no. You can be ladylike and be direct and dress your way and communicate your needs and emotions. Yes, we can do it all, but you don't have to do it all. It's a choice. There is no plan B. And I think that mindset definitely made me succeed.
You shouldn't think about how it's going to fail. You should think about how it's going to succeed. Exactly. And there is no other way.
You know you have the power as a woman of doing whatever you need to do in whatever circumstance life puts you through. To live is to learn, is to be alive, to be young, is to constantly acknowledge that you have to constantly learn.
Welcome to Femisticated Podcast. My name is Lucia. I am here with Nina, my business partner and co-host. And we have also Andreea here. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
Hello, Lucia. Hello. Today, we will talk about how should we navigate our manner compass in different stages of life. For those who are listening us first time, Femisticated Podcast is all about women's world. We bringing different point of views on how to stay in a feminine flow, avoid getting crazy, succeed in this world full of sharks, where even feminism is twisted all the way around, ladies. Andreea, you are a very special guest for us. You are a founder of School of Manners, and you are also a mom. You have a toddler at home, like Nina has 12-month-old. I have 2 kids. So this we have in common. And I would like to know how your business started, because I know that you started when you were without a kid. So what is your story, Andreea?
Well, first of all, Nina, Lucia, thank you so much. You've been very kind in your presentation, as always, and it's a pleasure to be here. I love the name. I love the podcast. You're genius for doing this. Before we even started, we actually figured out that Nina and I already have something in common more, which is the fact that we both come from Emirates Airlines. Yes. Definitely Emirates has created some talents there that had the passion of empowering women one way or another. School of Manners started 6 years ago when I left private aviation. At the time I was working in Royal Aviation for the royal family in Abu Dhabi. And I knew from before that this is the path I would like to take. I think it started when I was a child, really. My father is a priest. I used to say that I would like to be like my father. I would like to become a priest. And
that's very nice.
It is. Obviously, everybody would laugh because as a woman, you can never become a priest. It's interesting because now looking back, I had an aha moment when I realized that I did become what I wanted to become before I was 5 years old. Because for those that don't know, in history, it was priests of the community that were sort of instilling the manners in society. They were the ones that were sort of teaching the skills that today I have the honor of taking over. I had to plan way ahead. I would say that 4 or 5 years before I launched the School of Manners, I was building up to that moment.
There was planning.
There was a lot of planning, a lot of savings. I knew exactly the type of degrees that I would like to collect and specializations that I would like to have. And that was very, very important for me. I knew exactly when the time will come. And it was when I had enough money to go to the school, which was a big dream of mine. Before I went to the finishing school, I had to resign. And then I launched. And initially, the School of Manners was called Her Manners.
I think what you do, your work is very important.
You started your business, you planned it up front. You start like a newbie, you are a greenhorn, and you throw yourself there to the market. And now what? How did it go? What was the struggles? What you were thinking? Did you want it to quit or you didn't want? There's lots of women who would love to start their own business and maybe they have their own jobs and then they're saying it's very risky, I can't do this, I'm not good enough. But we all have it inside of us. We just need to be patient, consistent. But how was it for you?
100%. And if I'm saying that do not quit your job, definitely start preparing ahead. Make sure that you keep money aside every month as much as you can. You know, I stopped going out to any kind of parties. I took the cheapest, most affordable studio apartment that I could be in. I never lived paycheck to paycheck to make sure that I'm saving for my dream. And
so you prepare the budget.
You prepare the budget. You prepare yourself as a specialist. You start whatever you can to already work on that dream. There is no plan B. And I think that mindset definitely made me succeed. Many people were asking, what are you doing if this doesn't work out? And there was no real answer to that at the point where I knew this is me. This is part of who I am.
What we were talking about starting this podcast. That was the first time actually when we had no overthinking in place and we like, go ahead, we need to move forward. However is going to be, we just put it to the market and we go with the flow and then we're going to learn on the go. But there are no like hesitation or frustration.
It is about,
That was a great point. That was a great point, Andreea, what you said. You shouldn't think about how it's going to fail. You should think about how it's going to succeed. And there is no other way.
There is this quote that everybody shares that find your passion. You're not going to work a day in your life. Well, that's not really the reality. I can 100% confirm that I found my passion. I love what I do. Part of who I am and what I stand for. And believe me, I work 24/7. There's nobody
coming.
Nobody coming. Yes, nobody is coming to pick you up from bed and tell you, okay, this is the time to start working. I had to learn the very hard way that discipline and finding the timing and the space to sort of work every day, to put that tiny step forward. And even one trick that I found too late that I hope others are going to learn from. If you work from home, act like you're going to work.
That's very
Wake
true.
up, make your bed. That starts, already you feel a bit more accomplished if you made your bed.
100%.
And
First
and
accomplishment of a day.
Exactly. Start with an accomplishment. And then definitely put makeup, dress up at least. Dress up and take yourself seriously. Yes, you might be working from home, but that doesn't mean that you can't respect the fact that this is a genuine business. Start treating it like this. Do not let people say, oh, what are you with that small project of yours? It is a big project. It's a project of your life. And you need to shut down this mentality that this is just a hobby. You do not have to follow what everyone else is doing or what everyone else is saying. Just be authentic to yourself. Admit to your own resources. Don't just try to blindly follow. Like many people are going to come and say, oh, why don't you start this YouTube channel? Why don't you do LinkedIn? You have to be on TikTok. There's so many suggestions. Just take whatever feels right for you.
But your reach is very impressive. You have lots of people following you and also they commenting under your post, they liking it. You are doing a great job and I'm following you with Nina for a long time, for years since you started.
We know that you also started another role as a mother, so about 2 years ago. I'm curious, how did that play in your business? I know, like being a mom myself, it's a very big transition when you have someone else that you have to look after, and what were the struggles that as a mom you faced?
Oh, Nina, I feel for you. It's like my whole body responded to your question.
We don't see that. We didn't see that. Very beautiful.
I'm all prepared for it, but yes. I think I dreamed and I prayed of becoming a mother for the longest time. Nobody can prepare you for what is there to come. I think it is 100% true when they say that when a baby is born, a mother is born. Physical changes, which are the most obvious, to the mental and emotional shifts. And I think there's so much that is on their plate in motherhood. We have this pressure that was passed on to us as a legacy of sort of making everything seem seamless. And I'm not sure for who we're doing this. Yes, we can do it all, but you don't have to do it all. It's a choice.
I think it's a social media as
It
well
is.
that put lots of pressure, seeing like those
100%.
perfect homes and perfect moms cooking dinner and running their multi-million-dollar business. And that creates lots of pressures, especially for moms that are business owners, because they have the pressure that they have to do it all. They have to do their job perfectly. They have to do a great job at home. They have to be perfect cooks, wives. And we were talking about the roles that all women have to actually play and how many different people you would need to hire just to do your job as a mom. And on top of that, you have your own business as well. So
What was the counting? How much money did it cost if you have to hire?
It went into thousands of euros.
It was
I believe.
200,000 of euros per year. We would have to get paid if we would be paid for all the roles we have to take. No, we do take, either we want or we don't want, But modern feminism, where we had to fight for our rights. And I think it got twisted a little bit, but we talked about this. I think I'm repeating myself always here.
Oh,
on this
I don't
podcast.
think it repeats it enough. Yeah. I don't
We need to
think I
say that.
repeat
We
it
actually
enough.
need to say that
I
more
think we
because
need
I
to
think
say
it's
that.
not said enough, and how much we as mothers we actually have to do.
You know you have the power as a woman of doing whatever you need to do in whatever circumstance life puts you through. You don't feel the need to prove yourself constantly. You don't need to tell people, oh, I can open my own door. 100%, nobody doubted that your hands are going to fall off from opening a door. It's a ridiculous concept. I always love the comparison in women fighting against chivalry or feeling like men open doors or pull up chairs or help them with luggage is because they can't do it themselves. Is the equivalent of the customer fighting with the supermarket for giving them samples of food, like they can't, that they think they can't afford the food, which is not at all the point.
Yeah, and that brings us to manners, right? And I think in motherhood, there are so many situations that we have to face as mothers. It's sometimes very difficult to navigate them. And since you are the expert on the subject of manners, we really want to help our listeners that are maybe in some situations as mothers or mothers to be, or as women as in general, how to navigate certain questions or situations with grace and elegance. What happened to me when I became mom later on in my life, there was always this question, do you have kids, or are you thinking about having kids, or when are you going to have kids? And very often it's not meant in an impolite way, but still those questions can bring some sense of being uncomfortable, especially if, for women that maybe don't want to be mothers at all, and they don't know really how to reply to that, and they feel this constant pressure. But as well, those women that are trying to be mothers, and this may be a painful subject for them. I find myself sometimes in situations that would be very difficult to give a neutral answer without having an awkward silence afterwards. You as an expert on interpersonal communication, how can we navigate it? How can women that are in this situation can navigate those questions?
And is it the right thing to ask from the point of manner? So both sides, can you explain both sides? How this should work for both sides to be happy or satisfied with this entire situation?
Yes. One thing that I love, Lucia, is that you mentioned an etiquette, and people need to know that manners and etiquette are not the same thing. They're always assumed to be the same. It's related to your question, so I'll revert back to that. Is the reason that etiquette is a strict set of rules of this what you're supposed to do, and in certain cultural environments or households, and it's never universal. So there is a Western etiquette, there is an Arab etiquette, there is a Romanian etiquette, there is
it's more cultural.
It's very diverse, yes. So it's very specific to whichever environment you find yourself in. Yes. Now, at the base, and I don't think etiquette without manners becomes snobbery. It's like you follow rules, archaic rules, for no reason, no understanding whatsoever. Manners is a lot about social intelligence, is about who you are. And I think if you shift that mindset, it's when manners start to shine through. So when you're asking, is this the correct thing? No, it's not the correct thing. Is because, again, with manners, you have to always ask yourself how what I'm saying is making the other person feel, instead of just doing things because you've seen others do it. And many times we ask these questions because they become a cliche. We've seen others do them, ask them all the time. So we think it's all right. It's all right to tell to someone, oh, you look so tired. It's all right to go to a woman.
Thank you very much.
Finally, like she just had the meal. I was coming on board, and how bloated and everything you feel. And then you're like, are you pregnant? It's so embarrassing. And I see this all the time online, asking women if they're pregnant, asking women when they're getting married, asking when they'll have the next child. It never ends. And it's this set of questions again. It's just because we do them without having the manner. It's almost like a mindfulness. And I always say that manners are the best type of mindfulness, is you being present in the moment, being aware of what you're saying and how that impacts the world around you. So no, in no way I recommend, if you catch yourself asking this type of questions, understanding that it's not appropriate. Most of the times people ask these questions because they assume that this is what would make you happy. And many times it's just the way they've grown up. They don't want you to miss out on things that they inherently believe would improve your life. You just say, right now, I'm very happy with where I am in my life. I'm in a very good place. But whenever that changes, you'll be the first one to know. And then you just change the subject.
That's a beautiful way how to navigate it, actually. Yes. So thank you for that.
Yeah, there was the situation you mentioned, asking a woman if she's pregnant. Okay. I was after my delivery, like few months after my delivery. I lost so much weight. I thought that I am on the top of the world because I was like 85 kg when I had my second child. And then I was like 70 after I lost. And I felt like, you look so amazing, you look perfect. Come on, let's do this. And I was standing in the line in a store. And a friend of mine came, I haven't seen her for a long time. And she was like, oh, hi, how are you? When are you due? and I couldn't react anyhow. I didn't know, I was purple, red, pink, whatever emotion on this world, it was happening inside of me. You thinking that you look your best after all of these things happening in your life, and then somebody asks you, when are you due?
Someone asks, well, when is it appropriate to ask? Well, unless her water broke in front of you, I don't see a reason for you to ask, are you pregnant?
I have to confess, yes. I did ask. I was aware it wasn't right. I just did. I couldn't take it back. And I felt guilty that time. But yeah, I know it's not right. We shouldn't do that because women can go through different periods of time, different struggles. So,
but Lucia, don't feel bad. I've done it. Everyone has done it.
No, I went through a forgiveness process. I forgave myself for everything I've done.
You have to forgive. You have to forgive.
I need to do it again.
It happens.
Like a good. You don't do it because you want to harm someone. Like maybe you have a genuine interest or it's a genuine question. Many times it's not something that the person means any harm to you. And I actually had to ask that question to women when I was cabin crew. So it was part of my job to actually ask women whenever they are pregnant or not, and they have a to-fly certificate. And I cannot even tell you how many times I would ask a woman if she's pregnant and she would be mad at me because she was not. It is a very difficult subject to navigate. But as you said, like rightfully, we should be very mindful and think about, is it really right thing to ask and when it's appropriate and when it's not.
There is another one. These are words we're saying. But how about when you have a belly and people from your friends or your family members or even strangers, they want to touch your belly? For me, this was one of the worst experiences in my pregnancy. I didn't want anyone to touch my belly. So how should we navigate this? If you want to do that, should we ask, or how does this go?
Sometimes they don't even give you time to react, right? Because I think it's also in different cultures, as you said, like, some cultures are a little bit more comfortable with physical touch and they don't see it as something bad and they would just come straight to you and straight touch your belly. So then how do you tell them, take your hands away, I'm not comfortable right now? So
if I should act authentically, I would scream so loud, like, don't do this, please, or something like that. I felt that way.
And it's normal and it's perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong. Everything feels like 10 times,
20,
worse,
30, 40.
More than emotionally, and you're drained and you're physically exhausted and there is a lot happening. Taking that moment to inhale. And when you inhale thoughts that are more positive so that when you speak, it doesn't come out as super rude.
This I need to learn.
Yes, so it's
inhale,
one trick.
How did you say it? Inhale first?
Yes, we inhale our thoughts, we exhale our emotions. You can say, like, well, I wouldn't be comfortable to do this to you.
But at that moment, you don't know what to do.
What made you feel like we are that close for you to touch my belly? And just laugh at it. Act in a way where, like, rolling your eyes and you put this, subtitles on your face and be like, what?
But rolling your eyes goes subconsciously, and sometimes we cannot even do anything about it. You really need to control it because all the eye contact and all of the facial expressions and body expression, it goes subconsciously with us.
It's something like sometimes you're not aware of what you are saying, and it can be, but it's also your facial expression and something that we forget about that really betrays you, even your body language. So it can be so many different things.
We need to take some of Andrea's classes.
Definitely we will. That's for sure.
It's so
100%.
Interesting.
Yes. And sometimes you make faces and because you want to communicate something to others when you don't really want to say it. So what comes to my mind is a situation when you actually happen to a lot of us when you talking about motherhood, like if we stay in the subject of motherhood, when you go outside, let's say in a restaurant or in a place and there are kids present with their parents and the kids are doing something very naughty that basically bothers everyone around, including you, and you just send those hints to the table next to you that you are really bothered and you are not comfortable, but it's being ignored. So how would you react in the situation? How can we, let's say, set our boundaries? So to communicate that we are being uncomfortable, but at the same time, is it a right way to interfere or to say something, or we just have to suffer through it?
Nina, how old is your kid? How old is your little?
It's just 1 year old, but I have lots of experience with my, obviously, like having lots of kids everywhere where you go. So those situations happens quite a lot, right? It's not, so when is it right to say something and when it's not?
It happens a lot right now. Is it all right to discipline or set boundaries for another person's child? No, it is not.
No, it's not, Nina. It's not.
It is not. So you never tell another person's child, you never discipline another person's child unless you were specifically instructed to do so by the guardian, by the parent of the child. As long as the parent is present, you would address the parent. You would not address the
you
child.
address the parent.
Yes. When there are, let's say, older kids and they are doing something that is obviously wrong or very rude, it's bothering you. So as you said, we should actually approach the parents and ask them politely, like, I'm really bothered by your child's behavior. Would you? But usually, like, all the parents, I think they would react like very aggressively and like defending. So I believe those situations are very tricky to navigate.
There are usually parents, and not being parents, I think we can all sort of relate. If you're in that situation, you become defensive when you feel attacked. It's called in psychology transactional analysis in communication, where we have 3 stages of communication: is parent, adult, and child. We always have to aim to communicate from adult to adult. Now, adult to adult means that I will share with you my circumstance. I will ask you, if maybe we can find a solution. That is adult to adult. When you're telling someone, can you mind your child, you're putting them in a child position of communication, and you are the parent. Like, you will have the upper ground telling them that this is naughty, what is happening.
Yes.
And then from a child position, the person can only use denial, aggression, or defensiveness. You've put them in that place. So how would an adult communicate? And always come from this place is that you would stand up if you're in a chair and they're behind you, and turn around and say, I'm just sitting here in front and I can really hear loudly the iPad. So don't say, oh, your child is putting this iPad loud. Because if you use your, this is bad, you are...
Don't address it.
So
So
say
immediately you feel
the
attacked, right?
iPad is pretty loud and I can hear it from here. I'm just trying to rest. Is there a way we can maybe get it?
That's a nice trick, actually. I love it. I love it so much.
It's all about the communication. Yeah.
But it's the way I'm thinking is always trying to keep myself from treating the other person like they're a child. Always try to invite them to finding a solution. I trust that they will find a solution. Avoid words like you're, telling them things.
Very nice. I've never think about that from this perspective.
That's beautiful. I think one of the biggest misunderstandings about etiquette and about manners is that you have to be always polite. You always have to say yes, and it prepares you to be a people pleaser because you always feel like, okay, if I'm not polite, if I'm not kind, if I don't say yes always, then it means that I'm rude or it's something wrong. So it's actually very beautiful to know that actually manners and etiquette is something completely different, and it teaches you how to respond in a way that protects your boundaries and what is the correct way to communicate them.
Exactly. So you can be both polite and set boundaries. You can be kind and say no. You can be ladylike and be direct and dress your way and communicate your needs and emotions and speak up and stand for what you value. So there's not a one size fits all. And I'm fighting back against it the most. So if there's anything that I would count as my biggest battle for the rest of my life will be this. I don't fight back like people believe against the fact that society is so rude. It's so rude. Everybody's so rude. No, I'm not fighting with rudeness. I'm fighting with the wrong way of teaching etiquette in society.
Exactly. So it's actually one of the things that we were asking about is how can we be the role models for our children in that correct way that they can actually follow this path of knowing their self-worth, and how can we mirror that as a parents to their children? How can we mirror this grace and this elegance, but as exactly as you said, not in a way that that makes them become people pleasers, but like following the etiquette and the correct way of communication.
Modeling is the ideal word that you could have used. Children are always going to learn from the example and the model of their parents. They're not going to learn. And sometimes I'm called to just teach manners to children. And I always say I only go if I get at least half an hour with one of the guardian of the children. Ultimately, they will sit there. They will learn for sure. Kids are like sponges of information. They learn faster than adults. If the parent doesn't go through this coaching, and many times it's because adults almost feel like, oh, what do you think? I don't have manners. It's like a pride thing. Just
Yeah.
And I have to tell them, even I need sometimes my classes. I don't think we need to put ourselves on such a pedestal where we cannot show any vulnerability. We have to somehow believe that we are the perfect being. We don't need to learn anything anymore. And that's when you start dying. I think to live is to learn, is to be
Very
alive,
true.
to be
Yes,
young,
that's a
is to
beautiful
constantly
reminder.
acknowledge that you have to constantly learn. That is one thing that it's ideal, is to model behavior. When you set boundaries, for example, it starts very young. The fact that when my daughter was still a baby, I would always make a point to, when her father would come in the room or anybody would come in the room, to greet them. And I would show, like with my whole face, I would say, hi, hi. Now, obviously, she was her first month of life. Most people would think that this is irrelevant. She's not going to learn much. There are studies now done that even from inside the mother's belly, the baby already starts building their emotional intelligence at times, like the music that you listen, their IQ starts building up. Do not define things in terms of right and wrong. I'll teach a toddler, okay, this is the fork and this is where the knife and this is the spoon, and you can start early. But if they're putting it all over, or one day they're just all messy, don't get frustrated with them and say like, oh, you don't know anything. Like, oh, this is how you do it. This is wrong. Because guess what? They're not going to want to learn more. So you just include them.
Thank you for this answer. It was such a pleasure to have you and talk on this subject, because it's big for all of us, for those that are moms and those that are not or want to become one. And maybe if you can, Andreea, just share where our listeners can find you and learn more about your work and your School of Manners.
For those that don't follow me, you can find me on Instagram at the School of Manners. From there, you'll find my website and everything else. And I'd love to hear from you. So please say hi in my DMs. And if you don't have Instagram, I'm on Facebook. I have a YouTube channel under the School of Manners. And the website is theschoolofmanners.com. So I'd love to hear from everyone.
Thank you so much.
Very nice. We would love you to join our community, Facebook community, Femisticated, because we want to hear your stories as well. And also maybe we can learn from you. We can mention it on the podcast. We can create topic around that and help other women to have their dreams, build their dreams, have their passion, and follow their dreams. We will have more guests coming to the podcast. We will give you more resources on our Femisticated website and also the community. So go to Facebook community if you want to learn more about these topics, if you're interested in it. And yeah, until the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Andreea. Thank you.
Thank you, Andreea.
Lucia. Bye.